Welcome to the White Sox REKAP Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Well, for the better part of 20 years, I had the pleasure and more so the life experience of having Chuck Garfien as one of my dear friends. He continues that relationship to this day. The teammate part of it, well, as you all know, is part of our White Sox Talk podcast for 8 years. 8 years. That came to an emotional end in 2024. Chuck has since soared into new beginnings at CHSN, and we, of course, here at the Recap have also done our own thing. I have waited patiently, so patiently, to get my friend on this podcast, just to talk White Sox baseball again, just to break bread with him again, and do it with all of you who watch and listen. Both iterations of our podcast. Now, we're not competitors. We're friends. Chuck doesn't need competition. Trust me. He kills it every single day on the White Sox podcast for CHSN. So it's my pleasure to bring in my guy, my dear friend, Chuck Garfien, on this edition of the White Sox REKAP Podcast. We have a couple of questions we're going to ask him from you, the fans. Of course, we'll walk down memory lane. And we'll talk about this version of the Chicago White Sox and what we like about what's happening going forward. And is there reason to fret about, here we go again. We'll talk about it all and more. Chuck Garfien on the White Sox REKAP Podcast, and it starts right now.
Whoa! Look at this. We're back. It's back.
Real life. I promise no tears this time.
I know. We were bumbling idiots last time we did it. We were crying through the podcast as we were saying goodbye to each other. It was crazy.
It was weird. It's like we were saying goodbye and like at the same time we're not going anywhere. We were just forced breakup. It was like instead of
it was a forced breakup. It was a forced breakup. Yes.
It's like the arranged marriage, and then there was the arranged divorce. We were the arranged divorce. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. I love your new digs that you have there. I like the modern couch.
It's pretty hip.
I have to say, if you're listening to this, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you're watching this, I'm getting the death stare from Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's looking at me like saying, who the F is this guy? Who is this guy? I'm about to drop 55 on this MFer. And then there's Frank, and his look on his face is, yeah, Chuck, he's about to drop 55 on you. And then there's Ernie Banks, and he's just smiling.
Ernie's just saying, why did it take so long to get this together? Yeah, Ernie just wants to play too. Frank's doesn't understand why he didn't win the MVP in 2000.
Correct.
And then Michael's looking for anything that he can take $20 from you.
Yeah, I'm a little intimidated. I feel a little bit like John Starks right now. I feel a little bit like Reggie Miller.
There's Patrick Kane. Okay.
Kane. Yeah.
And then who we got over here? Oh yeah.
I got Walter Payton.
Maybe that here. Maybe let me recenter this. Maybe Ernie.
There we go.
Those are the three we want. Peyton. So those of you who are listening and you don't know, we have our mural of our own Chicago Mount Rushmore, Chuck. That's what this is. So we added a fifth because there was debate amongst, believe it or not, Cap was like, we got to have four. And so he gets done with his four. And I said, excuse me, you forgot Frank Thomas. He was like, well, Frank's not going in over Ernie Banks. I was like, are you out of your mind? He is a better player than Ernie Banks. He's like, I go, Cap.
Come on.
There is zero scenario that this mural will not include Frank Thomas. And so we agreed to say, well, why do we have to have four? We can have five.
Yeah, he's not only the greatest hitter in White Sox history, he's alive, which like a living presence of the greatest hitter in the history of the franchise. And he's Frank Thomas.
He's our guy.
Cap, what are you doing? What are you saying? This is usually this is basically my life with Cap. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you saying?
Exactly. So I find this fitting, Chuck, that we're happening just by random circumstance that we are doing this on the 20th anniversary of Game 1 of the 2005 World Series.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. By the way, speaking of irony, I'm glad you brought this up because where is our new studio at Rate Field? the place where I watched Game 1 and Game 2, and you were there too, of the World Series. This was kind of like
the perch.
I'd never been up there before. It was almost like it felt like if not abandoned, this just unused portion of the ballpark at the time. Let's just put all this auxiliary media over there. And I hadn't really been there since. And now this is my new home at the ballpark when there's home games. So I have lots of memories of Game 1 just going to work every day now. And
I remember Game 2 because weren't there fans in there too? It was a weird. I was sitting on the outdoor. You know, it's like a. It's there's like an outdoor seating area part of it, which I don't know if that still exists with your new studio out there. They took that away.
It is there. There are people. Yeah, they're. But I know what you're saying.
This guy. So when Konerko hit the slam, I turned to my left, and this guy who I'd never met before literally jumped into my arms and was like, "Yeah!" And it's the old no cheering in the press box. Well, technically, we were not in the press box, but you are in the auxiliary media. And Katie Kirby used to work for the White Sox, just phenomenal. I turned and I saw her, and she kind of gave me these huge eyes, and then she just laughed and was like, "Whatever, man. Like this, I don't know what life we're living." And I wasn't even the guy who jumped in, but I was like, "Oh, screw it, man. This is a once in a lifetime thing." So yeah, it's crazy that it's been 20 years, and at the same time, it feels like 20 years at times.
Yeah. Now when you see video from 2005 and it's not in high def, it feels like it's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So it does visually when you see the highlights, and then when I think about it, it does seem like a long time ago, actually.
Yeah, we used to do our promos like in CHSN. Our home games are in HD. Home games, not road games. We used to like brag about, hey, we have home games and they're in HD. That is. Yeah.
By the way, the lowest day, I brought this up to people at the new network because it's a new network and it's a startup and things happen. Like it's not a perfect science to put TV together. And the first year, you'll remember this, I think, it was the new world, high def, right?
Yep.
And the White Sox were playing the Twins late in the year. It might have been like June or July. It was July or August. White Sox were really good. Obviously, they're in first place. And there was some kind of technical problem where the whole broadcast was in purple. And when I say purple, like you turned on the game, it wasn't that like the players were purple. No, all you got was a purple, like blank
grimace.
Purple.
It was a grimace screen. Yeah,
you couldn't. The game was not televised because there were technical problems. And Jim Corno, the late Jim Corno, GM of our network, said in the paper the next day, "This will be fixed, and if not, there'll be someone different in this seat tomorrow."
I love it. Jim, accountability. How about that? Accountability matters.
Like, I was like, I will run through a wall for this man when he said that.
Dude, touche. I mean, the late, great Jim Corno. Yeah. All right. So, the new network, CHSN. So it's officially a year plus old. Mm-hmm. Officially a year plus old. I will say this, and I feel very strongly about it. The White Sox broadcast on CHSN was a better product than NBC Sports Chicago. That's a fact. I worked there for 20 years. I was part of the live events broadcast the last 12 months of my career there. And I'm not knocking it because a lot of the people, this is a huge compliment because the mainstays of the broadcast stayed. Chris Withers is still in the producer chair. Joe Collins is still overseeing live events over there. So they're former teammates. That's a great compliment to say. The additions that they brought to that broadcast were fantastic. The really glaring negative that no one can control, it's you and I wish more people would see it. I wish more people would be able to embrace it and actually the carriage thing, that's a separate podcast. You've done it. I've touched on it a million times. That's the life of RSNs these days. But Chuck, were you surprised at how, as the season went along, specifically here, because I know the work that Withers did in making Friday Night All Access. I mean, I was part of those meetings for 5+ years. We're getting no. And then we finally got them off the ground for a team that was historically bad. And then this year it was fun because I think for a while they were like 8-1 on Fridays or something, home games. But Brooke Fletcher, fantastic. Mm-hmm. I thought Connor's addition was really good and insightful. You and Ozzy is appointment television forever and always, regardless of where you find yourselves. If you end up on YouTube one day, join the club. And if you just keep doing CHSN for the foreseeable future, it's just appointment television without the game. And that's a credit to you and everything you built at NBC with Ozzy prior to that. But how did you, and even the graphics, I'm just like rambling here because it's like I loved watching when the White Sox were losing 6-2. I'm like, man, the production quality of this game is so high that if this team can be a winning team, you want to talk about a treat. I'd put it up against any broadcast in the country.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. So Chris Withers, he's the producer for White Sox baseball, and this was his idea, his grand plan to do White Sox All Access. If you haven't watched it, it's a local broadcast that doesn't exist except here in Chicago on the South Side with CHSN. When we say it's all access, it is all access, and the White Sox had massive buy-in with this. We started it last year. I was the reporter for those games, and not the right year to start it because
5-0 Reds in the first.
Yeah, it's basically this. I mean, Brooke is told, and then when I was doing it, I was told, these are the amount of players. These are the players in the lineup who, if something happens in the game, you can talk to them during the game. And you see it from time to time with the national broadcasts on Fox, but no local broadcast is doing this. And we're doing it every Friday home game. And Will Venable's available, the pitching coach, the hitting coach. It's constant. We're miking up players. Yep. And when we did it last year, they'd be down 9-0 in the second inning. And I'm like, I am not asking anybody to do anything right now, unless they have a massive comeback, which rarely happened. There were a couple of games where the White Sox were either in it in the middle to late innings or won it. And those were great broadcasts. This year, better team, better season. And Brooke
probably a better group too, just to
better group, better reporters than me.
Yeah.
So it was a great broadcast, and as the team gets better, those broadcasts will get better too. And from a technical standpoint, it's phenomenal. And you know what? I think I can just tell you there is a difference between being with NBC and being. I mean, even though the team owned the channel, the team really has more of a say in things, and there's more of just a partnership. It's just more together. There was never really animosity between the White Sox and CSN or NBC. It's just we're kind of all you just feel it, and there's more of a trust, I guess you could say, in many ways. And we're at the ballpark, 81 games.
Yeah. No, I know what that means for you.
I'm just going to get more stuff. I'm going to get more access, and I think it's going to be a better broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you like days I would be producing a White Sox pregame show, and they'd have a home game. Chuck would race to the ballpark, get an interview for the podcast, or just to be seen so he can get some background, only to turn around, sprint back to the station, start writing. And Chuck was never scrambling, but
I was scrambling.
There was some scrambling, and yeah, and it's just I know what being at the ballpark. I know what. Look, I'm having to kind of carry this on my back now and take it without the partnership and just with the trust and relationships that I built for 20 plus years with the White Sox and players, et cetera. And thankfully, they've been it's been a baton handoff and dude, we got you, but. It's not easy when you're not at the park to have the rapport. And when you show up and somebody's like, dude, where you been? That's never it. You've been told that. And it's really hard. So all right, enough complimenting CHSN, because there'll never be NBC Sports Chicago. There'll never be another NBC Sports Chicago. And forever and always, that'll be the best RSN in the history of the country. And so that's my NBC boom plug there. Chuck. So when you and I fought to do the podcast, and a lot of people who listened to you and I back, for those 8 years, and certainly now, and I've talked about it here for the last 12 months. But when we brought up the idea to do the podcast with Kevin Cross, who was our boss and now runs NBC, we got some pushback. The Cubs were the hot team. The White Sox were about to embark on their rebuild. We didn't really know exactly what we were doing yet either and what this was going to be, but we knew the importance of the timing of it, getting ahead of the White Sox trading Chris Sale and et cetera. Flashback to that time when you and I fought to just start it when they fired when they fired Ricky Renteria? Yeah. And it was a brilliant move to do the podcast to current. And I have a similar story just kind of with the recap, but like, could you envision how much?
Oh, no, Renteria. Wait. We got this wrong.
Yeah, Renteria was hired.
He was hired. Yes.
Robin was fired. Yeah. Robin was fired.
Yeah.
But could you have envisioned, if you go back 9 years now, when we started the podcast, to how much you have not just embraced it, but carried it into like being a legit, like you are a podcaster. And I know how much you care about being Chuck Garfien, like White Sox pre and post with Ozzy, but you have like a dual career path now because of what you've started. Could you envision the success that you've had in the podcast world with the White Sox when we go back 9 years now?
I mean, it's tough to, I wasn't thinking more than like, let's just do a podcast. I never even thought about how many we would do. I just knew it was the right thing to do. And there was an audience for it. And it's crazy, but like right now I looked at, it's funny you brought this up. I looked at randomly, I was looking at the number the other day and I've done over 1,000.
That's insane.
Over 1,000 podcasts. It's crazy. And you know what, it was, I guess as I'm thinking about it, there have been a few things that, like when I started in 2004, but the first White Sox season was 2005 at CHSN, you know, the only thing I did was TV. And the only way you'd find out from people if they watch was if they saw you in person and they told you that they saw you. And then social media happened. Then the podcast happened. And this is like, I'm a bridge. I'm a sportscaster, but I'm also a bridge between the fans and the team. I'm kind of in the middle.
Yep.
And there are now, you know, I knew very early on that the podcast was reaching people because whenever I would see people, what they would tell me was nothing about the White Sox. It was, I love the podcast. I love the podcast. I was like, wow. So I knew very early on that we were reaching people in a way that hadn't been reached before. So if I go to that point, then I knew I was onto something. We were onto something, and this was going to continue for a long time, hopefully, and it has.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. And I failed to mention this off the top. There's another reason. There's multiple reasons, but this is the first episode of season 2 of this podcast, by the way. You are episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
We made it to season 2 on this version of the podcast. And Brian Anderson.
Guff, congrats to you. I
appreciate that, my man.
Yeah.
And Brian Anderson, I asked him to take a seat. I said, Brian, you sit this one out. You got enough time with Chuck at CHSN. So now, BA, my teammate, is your we're all just teammates. It's just, you can find us all over the spot. All right, let's talk some White Sox, man. There was a lot. So we did a progress report on the rookie class in the middle of the year, and we did a final grades. Just last week, we did our final grades for the rookie class. Mm-hmm. I'd be lying to you if I said that I thought I'd be handing out as many positive grades to the rookies at the beginning of the year as that we did, because I have so much PTSD from failure, and not just from the first rebuild. Like, this goes back decades of guys who were, you know, high draft picks, high prospects that came out here and they never grew. You know, their high water mark was their rookie year. You know, Gordon, our friend Gordon. Like, there's never development. What we saw this year, and we can't guarantee it's going to lead to more success, but it's certainly tangible. Like, there's a lot to hang on to. Colson Montgomery's 21 home runs since July 4th. That's a thing. Like, I know a lot more about Colson Montgomery now for 26 and beyond than I did before. And that was the whole point. Like, I thought Chris Getz needed to know about at least 10 guys, at least 10 after the 2025 season. And I think he's got a really good feel for 10 to 12 players as to, can they play? Are they a part of, 26 and beyond? Are they a part of just 26 and 27? Is Colson Montgomery a 30 home run hitter? I think the answer is yes. And so now, how do you complement that? What is just your overall take on what you saw from, Edgar Caro, Chase Meidroth, Colson, the whole class? I'm not asking, you don't need to nitpick and grade guys, but like the class as a whole.
So going into this season, I just wanted I felt this was going to happen, but I would, know for sure. I wanted to see hope. I wanted to see a team you could believe in. And if those players you mentioned came up and all stunk, we would not be feeling this hopeful about the team.
No.
The opposite occurred. Every single one of these guys, with the exception of Tim Elko, but Tim Elko is not supposed to be like a guy. I mean, it would be great if he was, but he's 26. Like, this was kind of like, all right, Tim Elko, what do you got? And they gave him some chances, and we'll see what happens next season. But like the main guys, and then some surprises in Shane Smith and Mike Vassell. What this also shows me, and this is why I'm even more hopeful than what I saw from last year, is that clearly, and they're going to make their mistakes, but clearly this front office seems to be really good at identifying talent and developing talent. Now, there's going to be some misses, and this Dylan Cease trade for the moment doesn't look great.
No.
Doesn't look great for Drew Thorpe, and that was an injury that he suffered. We'll see how he does coming back. Jairo Uriarte struggled. Sammy Zavala doing better. He did better last season. But for the most part, these guys that they've looked for in trades and even signed in the Rule 5, they flourished last season. So if they had this many hits this year, how many hits are coming next year? And you compound all this, then we're talking about, something that at least seems to be a lot more sustainable and successful than the last rebuild.
Yeah. And I think Will Venable's impact on all of this too, I don't think can be understood. Like he is definitely, to me, like the right guy. And he just being in the clubhouse, and you were in it a lot more than me, you could feel the trickle down you could feel the connectiveness from manager's office to clubhouse to me, which in a way that, quite frankly, I had not felt since prior to Tony La Russa. Like, there was clearly a path of comfort and safety for players to and fro the manager's office. What the message was in that clubhouse every day, that was top down. It wasn't bottom up, or it wasn't like this part of the clubhouse has the message, but we don't care what that dissension did not exist. And this is what people, and I hear you fans, that you're going to say, oh, okay, these two guys are going to sit here and blow hard about 3 straight 100-loss seasons. We're not. I'm talking about what I saw specifically in the final 3+ months, and maybe even a little bit post-April when they were 5-21. And what I loved too. Now I'm throwing a lot at you. I loved that do they care about Super 2 status and all? Yes. But when guys were ready, Chuck, they came up. It wasn't like, well, let's find. No, Chase, we need you to go down. We thought you were going to break camp. We didn't like the way you were trying to get base hits. Go down for a couple of weeks. Prove it. Come up. Edgar, come up. We're not worried about you being 22. Kyle, you're ready. Come up. The whole Chase, or the whole Colson Montgomery situation, is unlike anything I've ever seen. But Will Venable's just steadiness, I think, shows to me, I think he's capable of leading this team now and when they're ready to actually start winning.
Yeah. I think the casual fans will look at the record and they'll just be like, oh, they still suck.
Yeah.
And they'll just not pay that much attention.
Yeah.
And I'm not faulting them for that, because, I mean, if I was a casual fan, I'd be like, well, okay, they still stink. But if you're a diehard, if you're watching this, you're a diehard. And I would hope to think that what you've seen is what the plan is. And last year, you didn't see there was a plan, but it wasn't on the field. It was just like, this team's like, where is this going? What I see is, and I've used this analogy before, the White Sox are building a tree, and they are planting seeds in the ground, and they want this to be a strong tree with a deep foundation, a big trunk. And they want to be strong all the way from the bottom up. And as we later would realize, the last era did not have a strong foundation at all. And it starts with who they're bringing in, and it starts with the manager. And one of the great things that I get to do before every home game is I get to spend a few minutes. It's me, Brooke Fletcher, the whole broadcast team, me, Brooke Fletcher, Connor McKnight, John Triffin, Steve Stone. We can spend some time with Will Venable. I kind of just, oftentimes it's like, okay, you guys were on the road, or we did a post-game show last night, and I got questions that I didn't have all the answers on the air, and I'll ask him these questions, and he was very, upfront with me and very clear and honest. The thing about Will is he does not pretend to know everyone and everything in the room. Like, he doesn't think he's the smartest guy in the room. And it's so funny. Whenever I talk about Will Venable, I'm like, boy, this is the exact opposite of a previous manager who used to manage for the White Sox.
Oh my God.
But anyway, can I criticize the White Sox like I did? Yes, I can. And I have, but I'm fair. And what I'm seeing right now is a team heading in the right direction. And that's what you want to see.
Play fast, Chuck. Don't ever forget. Play fast. The acronym that never made sense from Pedro Grifol.
Was it fundamentals or?
I thought it was play fast. Oh, what it actually stood for? Yeah, and it wasn't, and it was like 5 words, so like didn't even fit the acronym. Like it's just
selfless.
Team.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think the players did either. With that, and as time has passed, it's made a lot more sense. And I spoke with Ethan a little bit too, but I was a little surprised at Ethan's departure. It makes sense a little bit more now. Like you're seeing a GM give the manager autonomy of the staff he actually truly wants. I mean, when Will was hired, he really, outside of the bench coach.
Walker McKinnon. I mean, I think he might have been more hired by Chris than by Will. I don't think Will had a say of any single person on the coaching staff.
So, and there you go. Person. Yeah, and so they're like a year ago, we're sitting here, what's the plan? And we're talking about hope and faith. And like, well, I'm sick of hope and faith. Well, now I look at there's tangible hope and faith. And Ethan has a lot of success stories. Don't get me wrong. Like he's Vassell and Shane Smith, front and center of this year. And he didn't have a lot of talent, in my opinion, to work with. He was just Adrian Hauser. I mean, there's a lot of things this year that the Ethan Katz pitching lab turned around. I was a little surprised, but just like your take on seeing the amount of coaching changes and how that relates to what the White Sox have going forward.
I don't have a lot of the information or a lot of information to share about why all those moves are made. I can just say that kind of what we were discussing or alluding to is that Will Venable was hired to be the manager.
Yep.
And he had really no say on the coaching staff. And I think what they decided to do is, okay, the front office was like, these guys, we like these guys. Let's see how they all mesh together for this first season. And then we'll see how things go. This is not a reflection on Ethan Katz because I'm sure he's going to be hired by another team to be a pitching
1,000%.
A pitching coach. And pitching coaches do not normally last as long as Ethan Katz did, and certainly not as long as Don Cooper did. So, I did reach out to Ethan and said, "Hey, good luck to you." And he will be signed by somebody else, and there will be someone else who will come in. And I think they'll under the tutelage of both Brian Bannister, who's really the massive pitching coach. He's the director of
pitching lab. He's the pitching lab. Yeah.
And then it's, where's my brain? Ryan Fuller, who's director of hitting. He's going to hire a hitting coach. So, I don't know why a change was made, but at the end of the day, I think like Will has his opinions on who he'd want to work with. I don't want to say it's because you don't want to work with Ethan Katz. It just doesn't sound
it just wants to, like, it's your staff. You want to have, it's your team.
Yeah.
Your team, your guys.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to paint you in a corner a little bit here.
Okay.
So I know how you know how to paint yourself out of it pretty well, especially with this question. I'm so done with Luis Robert. I am. I just, that's the only thing that keeps me awake at night right now. Think about that. A guy with MVP talent. I understand why he's back. I do. Who are you going to? I mean, they haven't even officially picked up the option yet, but Chris has verbalized it multiple times. He's coming back. I wanted him traded. Literally, at any point in I don't care if it was spring training, trade deadline. Of course, he was injured. Right? Like it's like here we go again. Of course, he didn't finish the season. Like all of those things. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to see it. We're going to do this again next year, and because of the way the contract's constructed, I get it. but can we just cut the fat of the old Can we just get rid of the fat, Chuck? It annoys me. I've been talking about him for a year. BA had a trade package earlier in a podcast. I'm like, you are out of your damn mind. You're sitting here, a number 2 starter, a bullpen guy. Get the hell out of here. You're getting a lottery ticket at best. Chuck, help me. I'm just done.
I don't know if there's a person on the planet on TV who has talked more about Luis Robert Jr. than me. I could teach a master class in Luis Robert Jr.
Please inform. I'm sitting front row with my hand up and a pen and paper.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. Like, you asked me about Luis Robert Jr. This is me.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I have nothing more to give. Hopefully he's got a lot more to give.
I don't care if he does it. I honestly don't care if he does. I just don't care. Like, if he goes to Andrew Vaughn in Milwaukee, I don't care. It doesn't annoy me. Like, Andrew Vaughn doing that for the Brewers made me laugh more than anything. It did. It's like, whatever. Like, that's how I feel about Robert. It's whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. Someone told me before last season, I'm not going to say his name, but he said to me, someone who was with the White Sox and ended up leaving the White Sox. And he said, I think the best thing for Andrew Vaughn and Luis Robert Jr. is for them to play for another team. And it's not like because they can't succeed with the White Sox. I mean, which maybe that was the case. I should rephrase that. It was nothing that the White Sox were doing or not doing. It was at some point, you just need a new change of scenery after years and years of whatever you want to call Andrew Vaughn's tenure was with the White Sox and Luis Robert Jr.'s. At some point, you just need new everything.
Yes.
New everything. And it happened with Vaughn, right? And does that mean that Vaughn's going to have an amazing year next year? I don't know. But this game is so crazy. It's insane. Hitting a baseball for a living in the major leagues, there's a million examples of guys who are supposed to be the best hitter of their class, and they just don't. They don't become that. And then they do. Colson Montgomery is a great example. So anyway, back to Luis Robert Jr. Is he a $20 million player?
Probably.
I say no. I say he's not a $20 million player. He's
okay,
not.
I guess, can I, who are you signing to replace him?
Right.
If Luis Robert Jr. is just playing, okay, like literally if he's just playing every day.
But yeah, if he stays healthy and he can give you 150 games a season, yeah.
Well, he can't. We already know that he can't.
Right. But it's not as simple as, is he a $20 million player? In my opinion, no. Okay, let's not sign him, bring him back. It's also, then we got to go find another center fielder.
Right.
And is there anyone out there that's as good as Luis Robert Jr. who's available?
No.
They could bring in and want to play here. It's not always like, hey, we're not bringing you back. We're going to go sign this guy. Oh, wait, this guy just signed with the Braves. we didn't get him. Let's go sign that guy. Oh, he just signed with someone else. They have control of Luis Robert Jr. to bring him back. You hope he'll have a better season and he'll stay healthy. And we've been hoping for years and years and years, and it's only happened once. And then maybe you trade him and you get something for him. I guess the good thing is the team trying to win the playoffs next year? No. You bring him back, you solidify things, at least in center field up the middle, and you win more games, and you hope for a better season for him. And the White Sox have a payroll of, I think, $2 next year.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's really, really low. I don't know what's going to be, but it was really low last year. You can afford to bring back Luis Robert Jr.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of, I don't want to say, to use the paint in the corner analogy again, I guess, is he a $20 million? You just really did a good job of articulating that. He's not a $20 million a year player, but because of the way looking at the outside market, knowing you probably have to overpay a little bit to get somebody to come to you anyway, and then just the idea that you might catch lightning in a bottle, the talent and the contract and the control, he's a $20 million player because of the way it all just fits and spits out of a blender.
And if you look at what he did, like, it wasn't like his bat speed, wasn't there. He showed more plate discipline, had the most walks of his career, most stolen bases of his career. There was some good stuff that happened.
Right.
And just as things were looking really good, he got hurt. And we've been down this road many, many times before. It is what it is. There's not a single person, there cannot be a single White Sox fan who is thinking about Luis Robert Jr.'s tenure now and thinking, boy, this has been a rip-roaring success. Give me more, give me more, give me more.
Oh, yeah. I just don't want to hear. Yeah.
It's just like, come
Even on the broadcast, when I see you guys like Luis Roberts last 14 games, I'm like, oh, shit. They're just sitting there. They're putting it out there for the world, for this guy to go. Like, it's, and of course, he did. You just said something I was going to touch on later, but I'm going to jump on it now because you just said their payroll's $2. Are they trying to make the playoffs next year? No. You said no. And I ask you, why can't they be last year's Kansas City Royals? Why can't they be this year's Cincinnati Reds? Why can't they be a team in a really bad division? And Detroit might take a step back. We don't know what's going to happen to Tarek Skubal. They may trade him. Cleveland's always going to Cleveland, right? Like they're going to lose 10 in a row, look like they're out of it, and then just go on a rampage and win the AL Central. I guess what I'm asking here, Chuck, because I see a path. I do see a path to be competitive. And to me, competitive means you're in the hunt for that last wild card spot. Okay. Maybe it ends up being 78 and 84 at the end of the year. But you're thinking at the deadline, you're looking back on, we're 3.5 out of the last wild card spot. There's 6 teams that we're chasing. But what does that mean? I ask you, and I'm going to follow this with a free agent payroll type question, but I ask you, why not? Why can't they be the Reds next year?
Okay, so they can be. They can be. And talking to a couple of young players on this team, they want to make the playoffs next year. Yes, they do. And they're going to try to make the playoffs. What I meant was, by saying this team is not going to try to make the playoffs, what I meant was more from an economic standpoint. They're not going to raise their payroll to $180 million like it was before, because this is not the organization talking here. This is just me. This is me theorizing. You got to figure out what you have before you're going out and doing this massive spending spree. Are you going to go? I mean, you look at the guys. I would love Kyle Schwarber to be on this team.
Well, yes.
Right.
I wanted him the last time he was a free agent too.
Yeah, no, but that would have been like that. They missed the boat on that one. I mean, that was a massive fail.
Yeah.
More so for the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
than
no doubt.
And something tells me that Kyle Schwarber would love to just stick it to the Cubs and sign with the White Sox. That would be amazing.
I wish he had that in him.
Yeah. But so the thing is Josh Naylor is a good fit. The good fits who are out there from a free agent standpoint, though, there are those guys.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're going to be pursuing Josh Naylor, but that's one area where you could, okay, let's spend some money on first base. But if you look around the diamond, you got Andrew Benintendi. He's kind of stuck in left. Just get rid of him.
I'd eat him, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. And you can buy a bullpen. They could spend more money.
Okay.
But how much more are they going to spend now? We've got a lockout coming. I just feel like they want to give these young guys, and there's more coming. We got Hagen Smith. We got Noah Schultz. If you bring in all these other guys and you prevent them from having spots in your rotation or in your lineup, is that good for you going forward? Are you wasting money in the short term for more wins short term when you could be spending more money in the future? That's what I'm saying. Does John Q, Chuck Garfien fan, sportscaster, want them to spend $200 million next year? Yes, he does. Does he want them to spend all the money on Kyle Schwarber because that's going to make me feel good? Yes. But as I'm trying to think what their plan is, I don't think that's going to be part of their plan.
But why can't they thread the needle? And the White Sox.
Oh, you sound like Rick Hahn.
Oh, yes, I do. I was just going to say, the old White Sox way of threading the needle is there's a path. To me, there's a path to competitiveness here that doesn't block any of the spots you talked about. It's not signing Kyle Schwarber. It's flirting with Josh Naylor, but he might be too expensive. Naylor might get $100 million. I wouldn't give him $100 million, but he might get $100 million.
Yeah,
but if you
here's
can,
what I would say. Sorry to interrupt you. I would, if I was the White Sox, and this could be part of the plan. Chris Getz hasn't spoken yet about the offseason, so I'm just massively speculating here. But if I'm the White Sox, I would be targeting a few guys.
I have them.
Who could be like, okay, we're gonna speed this up just a bit and see where it goes. Because not to make the comparison, but I guess I am. What did the Cubs do in 14? Was it 14 or
15? They like won 97 games. It was like, whoa.
But no. But in the offseason, they were like, okay.
Oh, yeah, they signed Lester and Hayward. Yeah, they signed Lester and Hayward.
Yeah.
And then the next year, they complemented it by going Zobrist and others. Right. So
is this the offseason you do that? I don't know.
But I don't think you need to sign 2 9-figure type guys. I think you can get like a Cedric Mullins for 60.
No, for sure.
I think you can get it.
No. Cedric Mullins is going to get a 1-year contract. He's on my list. I'd bring him in.
I've been talking about Cedric Mullins for 3 months.
Oh, for 3 months. Oh, you said 3 months, not 3 years. Okay, I was gonna say
no. I've been talking about like I've been identifying guys that make sense for the Chicago White Sox. Mm-hmm. Like in this thread the needle, the plan. There are guys out there with needs that they have. That can you get your payroll was $78 million ish last year? Can you get a little uncomfortable making it $100 million? Because maybe can you get to 105? Because I want. They need another starting pitcher. Even if they bring Martin Perez back to like they don't do the $10 million option and they find
like Adrian Hauser.
Bring back Adrian Hauser. Give me like I'm not going after the big target. Dylan Cease, like those guys. No, not Framber Valdez. I'm thinking like who are the Cubs signed Matthew Boyd last offseason, and people are like, oh, that's who I want the White Sox to sign. Like who's Matthew Boyd? Who's Colin Ray? Give me one of those guys. Okay. Bring Martin Perez back maybe, or like a Chris Paddock. He didn't have a good year, but like a guy who's going to eat up innings and save some of these other guys. I think personally, I think the White Sox learned that they have 2 starters in their staff, Shane Smith and Davis Martin. And I think everybody else is a big question mark. So you need some guys to eat those innings and a couple of veteran guys. Like maybe they're signing flips because it doesn't work out and they're Adrian Hauser and you send them off somewhere else at the deadline. Fine. Kenley Jansen wasted his flipping year saving games for a shitty team in LA. He signed a 1-year, $10 million deal. Tell me why Kenley Jansen can't be the closer for the Chicago White Sox.
You know what? I mean, that's a great one.
And tell me why Cedric Mullins, like you might have to, I like Andrew Benintendi, the guy. You do too. Good dude. Not his fault that he's the 5 for 7. Never his fault that he got the richest contract. It's just for whatever reason, he's just been a misfit and he kind of still is. He's probably more DH than he is left field at this point. The White Sox don't like paying guys to go away, but this feels like one of those situations where if you can't work out a trade somewhere, like a big trade where you can throw in and make the money work by taking somebody else's bad deal, I'd be willing, Chuck, to, especially if you can get like a Mullins on a 1 or 1 year and an option, and just you're almost paying Mullins like the Benintendi money. And then all of a sudden, man, assuming there's a big assumption here that all of these guys take another step. Somebody's going to take a step back in the rookie class. That's fine. But then you do have the Braden Montgomerys knocking on the door, the Schultzes, the Smiths, etc. If you can give me a 9th inning guy, okay, just give me a 9th inning guy. Look what the Cubs did. They went to Game 5 of the NLDS with fucking Brad Keller and Drew Pomeranz and Aaron Civale.
Stop swearing. I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
Well, I'm sorry. This is YouTube. We've cussed a lot together. But you know what I mean? Like you can, like you said, rebuild a bullpen, but give me a 9th inning guy so you can stop being horrifically bad.
This team out a lot, unless because it's just everything. If you have a 9th inning guy, it's just everyone else just kind of settles into their own.
1-run games. What were they? They were 15 and 36 in 1-run games. Yeah. Give me work backwards from the 8th inning. Just do that for me. Give me a guy that can play left field and a guy that could be first base, and then just a plug and play starter. Chuck, I'm being honest, man. Like I know the White Sox limitations, and I understand that it's not time to go give the 9-figure contract this year with a strike looming. But I do think there's a path for the White Sox being competitive in 26. And when again, competitive means fighting for that last wild card spot, like in August.
Right. Well, look at the numbers since the All-Star break. Second half of the season, the White Sox had a +3 run differential. That's competitive baseball. They were competitive. They had a losing record because there's a lot of holes still left in this team. So they were playing good baseball, but not exactly winning baseball. And that was why they were +3 and not and +3 and having a losing record. But where was I going with this? Oh, Cedric Mullins.
Yeah.
Like, what a fit he is. Now, if you look at his numbers, defensively, not good last year and even offensively, but, they got to find someone to be, like a Michael A. Taylor type. I like the Cedric Mullins idea. Is that going to cause people to parade down the streets? No. But I like that match for this team. And I'm curious to see what moves they make, because it reveals a lot about, it's already revealing a lot about who the White Sox are targeting. And it says a lot about what they're valuing in a lot of the moves that they've made.
You got time for a couple questions from fans?
Sure.
Just a couple. R. Dan says, will the Sox have a seat at the table for Murakami? He's the Japanese. I mean, there's...
Sure. Yeah, wow, they should.
They absolutely should. Like Chicago's a great place for Japanese players, as we know. The White Sox have had a good history with it, and so have the Cubs.
Yeah. I don't know for certain. I have not heard anything about that, but the White Sox are doing their job, and they've got David Keller is the new head of international scouting for the White Sox. They've completely had to revamp that entire department, and he came from the Mets, and really sharp guy. So I'd like to think that I think we at the table. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I see the at the table reference, but I wouldn't be all that pissed if they don't get him, knowing where the White Sox are in their winning rebuild spot. Mm-hmm. Jim wants to know, and I think we can both answer this one: is the Old School Sox Fest going to happen this winter?
Old school meaning like a big
the old hotel, or even like the 2-day fan fest at McCormick Place in 2020.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
I don't either.
I've not heard anything official, but I think it sounded like at the end of the season that they were definitely going to go down the road of trying to do something similar to last year. I think in the end, that's probably, if they do it, that they'll end up doing that.
Yeah. I don't know how, I'm not speaking out of turn here. I don't know how teams feel long-term about the Old School Fan Fests. That's what and I'm not just talking about White Sox. I've talked to a couple of other teams that are trying to be more creative, I guess is the word that I'm using. Like the White Sox were last year. It was innovative. And I kind of had low expectations for last year. I actually didn't think it was that bad. I understand why people like the Old School Sox Fest. R. Dan, and this is not uncomfortable because we know that there is a succession plan here. Have either of you talked to Justin Ishbia, and do you know anyone that has? What is he like, his vision, etc.?
I've not talked to him. I've seen him at games, sitting behind home plate, front row. He was there for the home opener. Like, what a flex!
I love it.
Yeah, I'm. Not only am I interested in buying this team, not only am I building. By the way, anybody who's concerned that they're going to leave, he's going to he's going to have the team leave town. Drive up to the northern suburbs. There's a massive mansion that has been built or is built. It is his. He is planting a flag in Chicago, a big-time flag. And I think whenever it happens, Justin Ishbia is going to have a big role, not only with the White Sox, but just in this city. He's going to be a big presence. I'm not saying big presence like he's going to talk to the media all the time, but he will be
more like seeing him behind home plate is a thing. Like that was maybe it'll be more of that
game. I mean, I've never met
younger kids. But, I know Cap, of course, saw him at a game and just walked right up to him because that's Cap. Talked to him briefly. Said he could not have been nicer. So I have never spoken to him either. Just like you, I've seen him at games, but we'll see. I know there's a lot of people excited about. At least at least you know that there's a succession plan. Dr. Ducky commented on our picture, said a brotherhood forged by fire.
Oh, you mean it's the picture that you tweeted?
Yeah.
Of us
climbing a mountain in Arizona. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Sharon's ex-husband would like to know, can you unblock her?
Asking me?
At I Hate Sharon, can you ask Chuck to unblock me?
Okay, I will tell you this. If I blocked you, you deserved it.
Oh, yeah. I knew Chuck would have a good answer for that one.
I've got very thick skin. So, I mean, people can have, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've read it all. People just will rip me and it's all good. But if I blocked you, it was, you hit me deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chuck, like, I don't need this in my life. Block. And I'll do it. I'm sorry. I will not unblock you.
Sorry. I'm not sorry. All right, Chuck.
Sorry.
Did either of you, this is coming from Rob, did either of you shed a tear when the Sox won in 2005?
I don't think I did. Did you?
I shed a tear at the parade. I shed it. So I was behind home plate, ready to go on the field. So you didn't have a lot of time to kind of be emotional. But I did ask the crew we were with. I said, "Give me 2 minutes. If they get this, I need 2 minutes."
Yeah.
And I did call my mom as soon as the game went final, and I said, "Thank you." Mm-hmm. And she was like, "For what?" And she was crying. And I said, "Thank you for what? Thank you for making me a Sox fan." And I said, "I have to go on the field now and probably work for the next 5 hours, so I don't have a lot of time here to reflect, but I do have enough time to call you and say thank you. I can't believe the White Sox just won the World Series."
Yeah.
And then she was at the parade, and then kind of taking that whole thing in was just I did allow myself to have like a tearful moment at that point.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I'm like you. I can be an emotional guy, sentimental guy, especially when involving baseball. And my grandfather had passed away in May of 2005, moved here in like 1925, never saw a single World Series in Chicago. And I did think of him. I think at the moment of when they won the World Series, I was like floating. I didn't even feel like I was living. I felt like I was in some kind of like heavenly altered state. And I would, if I would have cried, I think I would have remembered that. And I don't know why I didn't, but honestly, if it happened again, and my dad, who was alive in 2005, he's passed away. If they won again, I think I would for sure be crying. Yeah.
And it was just, by the way, like when you're covering that team and covering those teams, it's like it's just grind city in a great way. No one's complaining, but you're like, sometimes you have to like pinch yourself in the moment to even understand what actually is happening. But now that 20 years have passed, as I said, as we started this podcast, 20th anniversary of Game 1 today as we record this. Hey, Chuck, are you a snorer?
Am I a snorer? Once, I feel like we are making a transition here.
We are to our friends at sinusandsnoringmd.com.
Okay. I have been known to snore at times, but I don't snore every night as far as I know. Well,
fall allergies. We got the cold, dry air out. Sinus problems are worse than ever. Pressure, headache, stuffy nose. Cap's over here like always a mess. Ragweed, mold, dust can trigger congestion. Cap, Mindy sent him over there and was like, this has to change. I've sent somebody there now, sinusandsnoringmd.com. I recommend them. Their advanced treatments, procedures actually fix the problem. You can breathe better, sleep better, and feel better. They have locations all throughout the Chicagoland area: Oak Creek, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Mount Prospect, Lombard, and monthly Elgin pop-ups. Call 847-886-0875. So if that continues to be a problem, Chuck, check out my friends.
I know where to go.
sinusandsnoringmd.com. Last two for you. Worst thing of working with me. Worst part about working with me.
What was the worst part of working with you?
Yeah.
The worst part? I'm
back ending this with the best part. So I'm going to just make you, this might be the paint you in the corner moment.
Yeah. This shows you about our relationship that I can't even come up with. Worst part. What is the worst part? The worst part is not that I'm working with you now. That's the worst part. How about that?
It's funny. I was actually really hoping you would say that. I was like, the worst part really only answer is that we don't get to do this together, which is also the best part because we got to for so long. And the best part, honestly, is that you and I are friends. Like, take the White Sox away, strip it down to the studs. You've been there for me in times where I've needed you and vice versa. And I know that this is a lifetime friendship, like forged by our careers, but really a brotherhood of baseball. And the fact that we both get to continue to talk about the White Sox, even though we didn't end up at CHSN together. And who knows, like, this world it's this big, right? If you're watching this, I'm literally drawing the smallest circle, because at the end of the day, in this landscape, this world, you end up like you never burn bridges, man. You just never do. Not that you and I ever would, but this has been awesome, my friend. I've been waiting for the right time to do this. And it just felt like, I'm like, I got to see, first of all, I hadn't talked to you in a couple of weeks. And then secondly, I'm like, kind of feels like the right time. It's like the calm before the off-season storm.
Yeah.
Is the World Series starts, on Friday as we record this. Because once that goes final, then like things start to happen and free agency starts and then it's Thanksgiving and then it's the winter meetings. And then we're off and running full-fledged. And I love you to death, brother. I really appreciate you. And I thank you. I've never done this before. I thank you for showing me how to do this part of it, because I was only, behind the scenes doing my thing for a long time, and I loved doing it. But you kind of gave me a voice by bringing me onto the White Sox Talk podcast in 2016. Might not even have been ready for it. Certainly a lot of conversations that we had back then were like podcasts at our desks, but you gave me a voice and made me feel comfortable, and this is easy for me now, and you're a big reason why.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. You're driving the ship now, right? You're driving the car. It's different, right?
Yeah, it is way different.
It's very different. This was a lot of fun. All I had to do was just show up.
You did.
Right. Yeah. I'm not hosting.
I sent you a link and you just had to show up on time.
Exactly. There's a little more that goes into it when it's I'm the guy.
What are we talking about? Well, yeah, I don't know. Like there was a lot of times you would just kind of do all the like, hey, so we're going to do a podcast and we're going to talk about, we're going to do off-season predictions and here are the 10. Oh, okay. Let me look them up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I'm doing that to Brian. I'm literally that's why I'm saying, like, even if you look at some of the structure of how I do my podcast, it's very similar to how we did it, because it made sense. It was clear. There was purpose and there was meaning and there was thought. And now I'm doing this. I'm sending BA. Oh, hey, we're doing this topic. Like, here are some 3 guys I'm thinking of.
Yeah. No, that's great. And, when we started, I remembered in the very beginning, I'm like, because you weren't really on the air. I mean,
right.
At times you did a couple things.
Yeah.
You always had a natural, you had a knack for this. You had the passion. You felt comfortable. That's a big part of it. Confidence. You had always had that. So when you put all that together, I'm like, this could grow into something. And look at little Ryan McGuffey. Look what you've become. And so I'm not
just a Homewood. I appreciate it, brother. Just a Homewood Flossmoor guy and a Portage guy hanging out on air.
That's true.
On YouTube. Who knew?
Who saw that? Who saw that coming? Although I do remember very early, this old grandfather, I'm talking about myself. I'm not a grandfather, but like, but when I was, I remember like it was 2004 when I got on YouTube for the first time, and it like the endorphins in me just were like on fire. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. You can like put anything on this, anything. And the name, like YouTube. Oh, this is a great name. I saw the potential a long, long time ago, and here we are all these years later, and you're on YouTube.
I know. It's crazy.
It's a good place to be.
Chuck, you're the best, brother. Let's do this again. Maybe on your side or our side.
You've given me some thoughts. I think I know where I'm going to slide you in. I've got the perfect spot for you.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Planned.
Yeah.
Planned.
Yeah.
Can we do this? Like, let's check in during like the season too. Like, let's do like a Chuck check-in. Like, just get just a little pulse. Like maybe first half, second half type or something next year.
Sure, no problem.
For Chuck Garfien, you can catch him on CHSN, just not right now. He finally is getting his well-deserved break. It's Blackhawks and Bulls season. I believe the Bulls tonight, as we record this, for all those who are going to get this, the Bulls play the Detroit Pistons on CHSN. You should check it out. They got all, I think, 82 games, maybe 80 games-ish.
And the White Sox podcast is on TV now.
Let's go. Is Len Casper your latest guest? Who's your latest guest?
Len Casper is the latest guest. He's got a lot. I mean, I felt kind of bad. I'm like, wait. When was the last time I had Len Casper on the podcast? 4 years ago.
No way. Really?
Yeah. I'm like, I need to get Len Casper on. And
wow.
It was him and Jason Benetti actually together, which was great 4 years ago. But You know what? I'd like to think I know what's going on with the White Sox. Len really, really knows what's going on with the White Sox because he's on the road with them.
Yep.
He does all 162 home and away, and a lot of great insight from him.
Well, check it out. It's the White Sox podcast. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. For Chuck Garfien, I'm Guff. Make sure if you don't already subscribe, you hit that subscribe button, get the notification bell every time we drop a new episode of the podcast. You find out about it immediately. Thanks for listening wherever you listen to your audio form podcast. And for those watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. Chuck, you're the best. I'm Guff. We'll see you next time on the White Sox Recap Podcast.